It's Facebook Live, Brian and Janelle.
You're going to eat your breakfast? Oh, my God.
You want a bite? Here.
Aw, that's so nice.
Sharing is caring, Brian.
Or is it excessively mean because you can't actually take a bite? It tastes good. We are, remember, like, share, comment, all that stuff. Yeah, we're going to talk about Sex and the City. Not the show, not like,
the topic.
Not the topic.
Right.
As opposed to the rural areas. So we found this story interesting, not for the topic of Sex and the City, okay, as a caveat. None of us personally endorse, nor does Moody Bible Institute or Moody Radio endorse the show or the book Sex and the City.
I have not read the book and watched the TV.
Okay, so but just so you know, as the background, it was an HBO program, and it was written by somebody. It was based on a book written by somebody named Candace Bushnell, and the novel was published in 1997, made an HBO popular television series, and essentially, it created this idea of like we're women in like around 40, and we're just gonna live the best single life we can possibly live, and do whatever we want. Ergo, Sex in the City. Okay? Yeah. Right? That's the concept.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was this kind of like liberating thing for women. Well, fast forward now, many years later, and as part of a promotional tour for the next book she's writing, so in fairness, Candace Bushnell is having regrets. Here's her regret. Apparently, she lived that life. Didn't have any kids, eventually gets married, but then got divorced in 2012. And she says that was the first time she realized that she was truly alone. She's in her 50s, and now in her 60s, no husband, no kids. But her comment she made, which is what struck Janelle's interest, is she said, if you don't have kids, you realize, who's going to take care of me? Is that what you think you'd realize? You have 6 kids, so you're just realizing, I don't know what's happening. But why did that bother you?
Because it made me wonder, wait, hold up. Is that why we have kids? And that comment is coming from somebody with no children. So I'm wondering, is her perspective of living without children, does it taint her understanding of like, that's not even what we should be expecting from our kids. If it happens, fine.
Well, I mean, they better take care of me.
I think it
if you're watching.
It may happen as a result, but to have kids with that expectation, or just thinking like, no, that's one of the benefits of having children. You have people to take care of you when you're elderly. Is that even right?
Is that a top 10? Because it's, I mean, to be fair to her, it's true. Like, when you get older, if you have children, they will help care for you.
Yeah.
So it's true, but is that front of mind as a parent?
No. In fact, even now, I'm not really worried about, and now that I think about it, I have no idea which, if any of them, would want to take care of me. But I think you have kids because you've got, and maybe not everybody does, but I had that desire within me to love someone, not of my own making, but well, it's not Dr. Frankenstein here, but but yeah, that you want to have that family unit, and then they become teenagers and you regret that decision, and then they get older and then you're welcome them back to the family again. But yeah, I don't think I ever have thought about it from like, well, what can they do for me?
Aren't you even setting it up so that they don't have to take care of you? Like, there are specific things, for example, that Len and I have talked about to set up where if he passes prematurely, I can take care of myself and not put that, impose that on like my older boys. Even though I know there's a level of care I'm going to get from them, I don't want them to have that concern. Like, I want them to take care of their spouse and their kids. But I know there is some of that I don't know, like, isn't that the point of life insurance? And don't you set things up so that they're not put in that position?
Yes, I mean, I think she ultimately has got it wrong. I get why at 60 she's thinking that. Not that she doesn't have many years left in her life, but she's in the second half of her life.
Right.
And without kids, I think you would probably consider those things. But again, as a caveat though beforehand, I know we got a lot of people. What's up, Deborah? What's up, Callie? Myrna showed up.
Yeah.
Myrna showed up early. That's my girl.
Ooh.
And Sarah, what's up, Rod? Rod said good morning early. Lots of great comments coming in we're going to get to.
I've
But-
never seen Evanessa.
Me
Nice to
either.
meet you.
Yeah. Hi,
I
Vanessa.
Wow.
And she, yeah.
But what I would say is,
Shout
let's
out to
just
this
as a
guy.
caveat say, this is not a discussion about infertility.
No.
This is not at all about that. I know it's a whole different category. It's a sensitive category. If you're struggling with that, I'm so sorry you are. This is more the category of the person who, and there are Christian people like this, feel called not to have children. I mean, remember, Paul talked about singleness being, he wished everybody would just be
Yeah.
single because it's easier. So, Paul was childless. It's okay. But this person chose not to have children, and in hindsight, their big takeaway is, man, I should have had children so somebody would take care of me.
And the reason for not having children was so that they could have more fun
Yeah.
on
Right.
their own.
Yeah.
But if that's not why we have kids, so that someone will take care of us, if that's the wrong reason, because you're right, we set up things to take care of ourselves, Lord willing. Why do we have kids? That's what I want to know. What is when someone who's never had children at 60 by choice says, wow, you know, I really missed out. I have no one to take care of me now. What are they missing?
What are they missing?
Yeah,
That's
like why do we have kids? What would you say?
I think why we have kids and what ends up happening as the benefit of having kids are two different things. We
Right.
talked about some of the benefits of having children that eventually we realize. Up front, for me, both my grandparents had big families, and then obviously a lot of grandchildren. And our families are very tight knit. And when I saw that as a child, I was like, wow, I want that. So in that sense, it is some kind of care in terms of emotional. As an older person, to have grandchildren coming around and the in-laws, like a big family, like I like that. And I wanted that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. And
And
Myrna,
it
by the
wasn't
way,
what
jumped in.
Deborah said. Go
What?
ahead.
What did
Go
Deborah
ahead.
say?
She said, have children because that's God's way. Family sticks together, but not to have them so they can take care of us. Family takes care of family, yet we're individuals. Church family takes care of church family. I was going to say, it's not necessarily what Deborah said. For me, I didn't say as a 25-year-old, well, let me have my child because God said so. It's specifically, you know, like I wasn't thinking that way.
Yeah, you didn't say, Len, you know what, we should have a baby. God says to have a baby.
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm just going to be honest. I didn't think that way. I just wanted kids. And I knew that was part of, like, I was very much about God says children are a blessing. And, you know, so I get that. But that wasn't mine.
So if we don't have children because, as she says, they'll take care of us, why do we have children? What are we saying? We're saying someone to love.
Yeah.
Other than your spouse, okay. I got to be honest. I'm not getting a lot from being a parent tangibly at this moment.
You're not?
Well, parenthood in the phase we're in is 95% giving. Like, just understand what I'm saying? Like, she's saying that in hindsight, it's the getting she's missing out on.
Right.
Does parenting have anything to do with getting?
It depends.
There's the flashes of love where, like, as a child they're learning to walk and they stumble toward you and you get to hug them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of also changing diapers and preparing food and cleaning up that food, and you're right.
There's more giving than getting, right?
A lot of giving, yeah.
Is it more giving than getting?
Yeah.
So I mean, she's in a different universe when if her whole takeaway is she's missed out on the getting. I don't want to say what getting, because there is getting. There is, like, there's joy. There are wonderful things about
They
being a parent.
enrich your life.
But the more kids we've had, and the longer they've enriched my life. But the longer Sarah and I've been married, the more kids we have, the older they get, the more of me I give up.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, especially compared to her decision was, I don't want to share me with anyone. I want to have all the fun I can.
And so it's ultimately the opposite of her whole like thesis on the missing piece of parenting is getting. No, it's not. When you're a parent, you primarily give, and you give up yourself.
There is a level of selflessness that you just don't get, or tell me if I'm exaggerating.
No,
if
unless
you've
you're
never
forced
had
to give
kids,
it.
and that would go for any of us. Like that could happen. That would happen to us. When you've always had to think about, like, it's always your way. Your schedule goes exactly how you've planned.
Because I agree. Because then the reality would be, Len, or I'd say Sarah, let's have kids so that we can give up more of our time and our energy and our interests.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a reason somebody has kids.
Myrna says they also deepen your prayer life.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So then
imagine.
what are the benefits? Like, what do you get? If you're saying no, 95% is giving, obviously we do get a lot of growth. You called it adult development. You miss out on adult development when you don't have children. What did you mean by that?
I've encountered couples who, for whatever reason, don't have children, whether it's intentional or not. They haven't adopted. It's just been the two of them. And this is going to be, okay, I'll just say it, and then you guys can yell at me. And they're more selfish.
They age faster.
Because
Okay.
if I don't have kids in it, I can really create a bubble. And I can be detached from it. I had somebody tell me, you're going to be relevant, Brian, in morning radio for the next 15 years, because that's when your youngest will graduate high school. You're going to be plugged into what's happening in culture whether you want to be or not. But once they're gone, I think it's harder to stay plugged into things because correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have to stay plugged in.
You're right. I felt that and now I'm stuck in wherever I am, irrelevance.
Well, and I don't even think Paul Carter would mind. He's 60, one of our colleagues. 62. I've met 62-year-olds who could pass for 80-year-olds, 82-year-olds. Paul could pass for a guy like in his 40s.
Yeah.
He's busy. He's connected to technology. And I think what ultimately would tip the scale for, let's start with you. Why did you and Len have kids? Kid number one, you said now's the time to have a kid because...
I remember we were at a hotel, in the pool, and we didn't have kids. We were married 4 years before we had children. And we knew we were going to have kids. But at that, and we took advantage of it. We went out a lot. And then I remember being in the pool and I was like, okay, this is kind of boring. We got to the point where we're like, man, we're ready. Kids make things fun and they enrich our life. And we were kind of ready to add somebody else to the party. There was a moment, I remember feeling it where it was like, yeah, I think I'm ready for something different in the sense of for there to be more of us. And I know there's a thing, people do it all the time, where you could be married and never have kids. I understand that. But you asked me where I was at, and that's what took me there, where I was like, yeah, I'm ready for more.
Well, and your situation's unique because your wife was widowed before you married her, but you also had a child with her.
Right.
So, why?
More at her urging than mine. I was actually content with the two I inherited. And there was plenty of culture shock there, at first just be like, wow, all of a sudden there's kids. But yeah, I thought we were moving along swimmingly, and then she said, you know what, I think I'd like to have another kid. I'm like, are you sure? And she was, so we did.
Jeffrey is saying, I'm single, no children, and I often wonder if my understanding of God, the Father, would be greatly expanded if I had been a father. Rod says, parenting is a privilege, not a life necessity, but we need to use wisdom in parenting. That's the thing, because even Myrna said, before she was a Christian, the reason she decided to have kids was because she said it was out of a deep sense of wanting someone that would love me unconditionally. And I know we don't all subscribe to the things that Dr. Phil says, but he says this a lot when people go on there with issues, especially younger women, feeling like they want to have a kid so that the kid, because they want to be loved unconditionally. And he's like, it's not fair to bring a child with a job, like for a child to be born with a job.
Get a dog.
If you want to be loved unconditionally by another thing, get a dog.
Yeah.
Because your kid's not going to do that.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing. And the other thing,
you do not think dogs are awesome, so take that back. Go ahead.
But I see that.
They do. No, because I don't even really like my dogs, and they'll lick at me and
they
all.
Like you anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, look at y'all. That's so cute.
I hate you, but you lick me anyway. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Kelly?
Well, I was gonna say that's interesting because there's being like a single woman. You hear other single women talk about they're not even dating and they just want babies.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those where it's like, hey, there's a couple more steps before you get there.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking Christian marriage and Christian values. But I think that's part of it is the wanting to be loved unconditionally or something like that. But
Karen, I haven't seen your name in a while. Hi, Karen. She says, having kids, you're training them to contribute to society as a whole. This can happen if you have biological kids or a part of a church body. The point is that you're put on earth to impact humanity, to give of yourself in a way that changes the way that others give back. I did not have kids to get anything back. I do pray that they would learn a Christ-likeness to want to help me or anyone else in need. So my question then is, that was part. I love being a mom and I love nurturing. And there's a need in certain people, not everybody, to want to give, to want to nurture. So there's that. That's all good. I had a vision of raising leaders, all that's great. But we've talked about the bad reasons. I don't think it should be, well, cool. Now I got a bunch of people to take care of me when I'm older.
They're not an insurance policy.
Or so for people to love me unconditionally. So then why? Why have kids? Because you said, you're giving of your... You know how inconvenient kids are? So, what's the point?
Well, okay. Could it be as simple as God has called children a blessing, right? It's very clear in Psalm that if you have a lot of kids, you're blessed, okay? Could it be as simple as because you'll be blessed?
Okay, how is it a blessing when you're in the thick of things and you're exhausted, you're inconvenient, and to be I'm just going to be honest, not even reading the article, seeing my friends that are not married or friends that are married with no kids, I mean, there are times that you look and you're like, man, you're lucky. You get to go home, leave work and go and take a nap. In those moments, it's difficult to feel of course, they're a blessing. Okay, I would want to sit with God and be like, can you explain to me, just to be real, when you're in the thick of things, blessing how? How is this a blessing?
And my response would gently be wrong view of the word blessing.
Okay.
That's the prosperity gospel preacher view of blessing. I can, in hindsight and in the middle of it, say it's a blessing that I've had kids and I have a wife. It's not my right. It's been a privilege I've been given, a blessing I've been given. And I'm blessed because I'm a selfish jerk and God's had to show that to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm becoming a better person because I'm realizing just how selfish I am.
Yeah.
And how I'm consistently being asked to stop doing that. Now that's biblical. We're not supposed to be selfish. We're supposed to put others above ourselves and love our neighbor. Mm-hmm. I'm horrible at that. Therefore, in the midst of all that you're talking about, It's teaching me biblical truth, and I'm blessed. Not because I'm not happy necessarily all the time. In fact, I'm miserable sometimes in those situations.
Yeah.
But I'm blessed.
Right.
Fair
That's
assessment?
deep. Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
That's deep, brother. Paul just joined. I know there's some new people joining, and he wants us to refresh the topic. We're talking about an article from the author of Sex and the City, Candace Bushnell, and she said she regrets not having children because she's wondering who is going to take care of her. So we're asking you, what are the right reasons to have children? I was a little rubbed the wrong way because I thought, well, that's not a reason I had kids. Like, honestly, I'm not expecting them. If it happens, bonus.
But they better.
I don't know. Like, I know, like, we feel that, but I'm like, part of me is like, wow, should we feel that?
Well, last night, I remember I was bugging my daughter, and she had a good day, and I helped her out with something, and I looked at her, I walked over, put my hand on her shoulder, and I said, just for today. Real nice spare bedroom in your house for Dad.
I know that's right. Yeah.
She goes, just for today? I was like, yeah, I earned that today.
You know, because I've seen mother-in-laws, and this person's out of the country and not even living anymore, so they're not out of the country. I've seen the expectations said out loud, and those are the mother-in-laws that turn into an issue, that do not look godly, that's like a problem. When you're expecting and saying, well, you know, you need to take care of your mother too, and, you know, whatever. That's where I'm like, how do we fit that into parenting? The whole expectation of taking care of your parents, which Dr. Rydalnik today at 8 o'clock actually talked about. He said, when the Bible says honor your parents, it's specifically talking about that season of when they get older. So maybe it is a biblical expectation. Is it, Brian?
What?
You're over
to
there
care
all
for your
quiet.
family? To care
Yeah,
for your
so
parents?
maybe it is something that we should expect.
Well, if you don't care for your own, you're worse than an unbeliever. But it's one of those, it's like Dr. Rydalnik also says, don't look at your wife and say, submit to me. What you do is you love her sacrificially. You won't have to worry about that. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you follow God's commands and you raise your children as best you can, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at them and go, look, take care of me. So
Yeah.
you're not worse than an unbeliever.
Yeah.
So is it an expectation? I think it's biblically true that we should care for our parents when they're older.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should walk around demanding it or have children because of it. See, it's a subtle difference.
Yeah.
By the way, Rod was clapping for me, Janelle, so I'd like to...
Brian! Woo! And then somebody laughed at it. Somebody laughed. Yeah.
Rod, they're laughing at us, bro. What?
Now, I think back in like prairie days and stuff, people had large families because it was a workforce, and you hoped to have older sons because they would be the first ones to grow up to be helping you out in the fields or
Yeah.
Right.
with the cattle or whatever type of farmer you were. But that's not so much today.
Yeah, my kids
You
don't
really
do
have to
anything.
work hard
Yeah.
to get your kid to do anything. Get out there and mow the yard.
Callie says, the reason why I had children is because I liked being part of something. Growing up, my parents did some fun things for my brother and I wanted to create memories with my children, like how many parents taught us.
Yeah.
You know, this
Aw.
reminds me of my baby, my 5-year-old. In the same sentence, she was like, you're such a great mom. And then she goes, I want a bunch of kids. I want to have 6 kids. And she started telling me about everything she's going to do. And some of that in all of us is the inspiration of, like, maybe your own experiences. Or if you haven't had a great experience, the desired... Oh my gosh, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because I've heard out of one of my kids' mouths going, listen, I'm having 1 or 2 because this is crazy.
Stop! Are you serious?
That's the reaction people have to large families is either they have them or they go, listen, I'm just having 1 kid and we're just going to have a nice, quiet life.
Oh my!
What does
all my
Len
kids
say?
have said they want a bunch of kids.
What does Len say?
About
Man,
what?
I think I'm miscalculating.
Oh no,
There's a
yeah,
lot of
Len.
people.
Yeah, and some of it could be maybe some of the kids, your kids are saying that if you're not like
My
an
introverted
extrovert,
kid?
exactly.
My
Because
introverted
my
kid is
more-
like, what?
My more introverted kid said, he said, I might have a bunch of kids, Or check out the alternative, or a pit bull and maybe 1 or 2. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Pit bulls are cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess as we approach the, like, kind of bring it down, like, we started the conversation about this article. And then I wanted to come back around to what we talked about, selflessness. Remember Lisa Anderson, she's with Boundless, she talks about, talks to singles. And one day, weeks ago, she said, if a lot of single people need to consider having a roommate, because when you're single, you don't have a lot of opportunity to learn to compromise or learn to develop or grow in selflessness.
Yeah.
What in that, how do you think parenting helps us in our spiritual life? And what are the benefits, if not taking care of us, of dealing with the diapers and dealing with the toddlers and teens, which we're in the thick of?
Well, Pastor Ron Morrison has joined.
Woo!
Stand up, Janelle. Stand up.
I need to stand.
I am
Stand.
I love my jokes. And Rod, by the way, said, Brian, they're probably lacking in Scandinavian blood. Isn't that the truth, brother? So, I'm sorry.
It's amazing.
I liked your question and it's gone because Pastor Morrison got here and I got nervous.
So what are the benefits of having children, and how does it help us in our spiritual growth, just so that we can appreciate it? Because it feels like you said, what? I'm giving 95% of the time.
What I can say is, for me, I don't know why the Lord gave us children for Sarah's growth, but for me it's been forcing me to really think about the passage that says that we ought to think of others as more important than ourselves.
Okay.
And that we really ought to love our neighbor as ourselves as a priority and love God. So on my own, I'm horrible at that.
Yeah.
I'm really, really horrible at that. And I think one of the reasons God had me have a bunch of kids is because if I would have had 1 or 2, it's just me. If I would have had 1 or 2, I probably still could have been really selfish.
Yeah.
But he gave us 5, and I can't tell you exactly why we kind of landed there and how we got there, other than God's providence. But I don't have much of a choice but to give up a lot of stuff for me.
Yeah. Angela shares how God has used parenting in her spiritual walk. She says it's a blessing, and kind of talking about what you said. Children are a blessing because I have personally grown so much. The relationship has shown me how God unconditionally loves us. Paul says, God will take care of me. My kid can only do so much, but my God will take care of it all. How you answer this topic can show a reflection of your faith.
That's true, Paul. So what's your answer?
How they've helped me?
Yeah, no, like how has having children brought you spiritual truth and whatever you asked me?
Yeah.
I can't remember the question.
Yeah, I think for me, and I realized this year early on, parenting, while I'm so busy trying to homeschool my kids and raise and disciple them, one day, like years ago, it kind of flipped and I realized, like, oh my goodness, I think that as I parent, the Lord is showing me a lot of my gaps that I think I would not have seen if I didn't have kids. How impatient I am, how I don't understand even His love. Like, one thing I was telling my mom, like, wow, you hear how you can love people equally and how there are no favorites, and how you can love no matter how many kids come, you can love the next one just the same. But to experience it, it's like, oh my goodness. So I think you get a glimpse of how God loves you, His forgiveness, the way a mom can forgive a kid. It's like, whoa. So I realized through my parenting how God has used it to polish me. It's like, man, it's not even about me giving to Him. It's like God giving to me while I minister to them.
Yeah, God loves you as much as He loves Billy Graham or Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa. And you think, well, they were special. He had an extra love for them.
Yeah.
So what about you, Ron?
What about me, Brian?
He tried to get out of it. Because you're not an excessively selfish person. I've never seen that as one of your struggles. I know you have struggles in life, but
yeah.
You don't seem to struggle much with that.
No, I don't think I do. Although there have been times, like early on in my marriage, which is family life for me, you know, I was at first a big football fan, and then I weaned back to Browns, and then the Browns moved, which forced me out of football, and that was good because that was a lot of wasted time because none of my family was really into sports, so it was just me cheering at the TV or yelling at the TV more often. And so, you know, some of that, you know, God worked out of my life, that part of selfishness. And with the kids, you learn, I guess I've learned how everybody's different. You know, each one has their own personality and traits, and there's a lot of, even as they get older, there's a lot of compromising on things. You know, when they become adults, you start to be like, it's not just every meal, every holiday meal at your house, but now, okay, they have another set of parents to go with, and so you've got to split the holidays. And we have a situation where my granddaughter's father is not my wife's husband, so he gets her sometimes that we don't, you know, for holidays, and so that adds to the mix. And you have to try to figure out when she's going to be around so we can have her included. And there's a lot of give and take that you have to kind of set aside what you want ideally and work for what works for everybody.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to touch on was Miss Anita said the Apostle Paul did not have a wife or children, and he is the foremost authority on marriage and family in the New Testament. We just can't judge one another. God has a plan for us all.
Yes.
When you touched on this too.
I said it earlier, but it needs to be repeated.
Yes. Go ahead. You want to repeat it?
No, go ahead.
Well, the angle I was going to add was what Lisa said. Lisa Anderson very much says not everybody's meant to get married.
That's right.
But she said, reach out and try to find ways where you have to share a life with someone, whether it's a roommate or something, because she says it can help you learn how to compromise things that you learn in marriage that you don't have in a single life. But in that encouragement, she wasn't saying go and get married. You know, so my thing is, if you don't have children, there are a lot of ways, and I've seen it in people that I love, where they surround themselves with kids, whether it's helping people in the
or
church.
People, for that matter. Not even just kids, surrounding themselves with others.
Right, that's a great point. Right, where you're serving and learning in terms of patience. But I mean, you talked about technology and staying in queue. I mean, those are things neighbor kids can teach you, or, you know. But you were going to add to that.
Well, no, it's just, I don't want to neglect the fact that some people are married and can't have children.
Yeah.
And this is by no means us talking about that. And it's the uncomfortable nature of sometimes God's providence does not align with our desires. And
his sovereignty. I mean, it's not, if it's not his plan, then he'll polish you in a different way.
But at the same time, I think you're right that First Lady Anita makes the excellent point that we cannot neglect the fact that Paul was not just childless but single, and thought that it was best because it could distract you from the things of God. And guess what? After having 5 kids and being married now for 16 years, I understand what he's saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that you guys are sharing how how God has used the blessings in your life with children to grow. Shannon says, have in mind have taught me to trust in God as much as I try and control to keep them safe or set them up for success or did. I don't really have control. It's a facade. You have to have faith and trust.
Then you got to show up real late, Tanks. Whoa.
Mad late. What is going on?
Started like half an hour ago, bro.
He was lifting weights.
So probably lifting weights. Wow, Tanks.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
I'd like to add one thing too. Somebody earlier on said they felt like maybe by not having kids they were missing out on on a deeper understanding
Oh,
of
yeah.
the fatherhood of God or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, don't dwell on what you're missing, because God will teach you unique lessons where you're at and in the circumstances He has you.
100%.
There's things that you may understand much better about God than I do because I'm not living your life. And so, we each have what God brings us to, and don't look at the others as, oh, you have a better life than I do.
I love that you brought that back up. There's a friend I have online, and her daughter got sick 4 years ago. She was 15, and so sick, like she's been at home, so she's missed out on high school. And the Lord has been working in her in a great way. And she said something recently that the Lord put in her. She was like, Mom, I realize it's not that I'm missing out in terms of seeing her friends graduate, seeing her friends drive. It's not that I'm missing out. It's that God had a different plan. So the same for people. If the Lord took you in a way where you're not having children, it's not like, oh, I missed out on having kids. No, it's a different journey that the Lord can use and have the same outcome where you grow in knowledge of Him and grow in His Word.
But bottom line, I don't think we were designed for isolation.
Yeah.
Because if truly God's values are, and they are, to love God and love your neighbor and consider others as more important than yourselves, you can't learn that alone.
Yeah, you can't.
It's true.
Whether you have your own children, or you have a friend group, or you have your church group, or the neighbor's kids, or your nieces and nephews.
Or my kids. I got a bunch of them.
They come borrow our 11 kids for a while. We'll teach you selfishness. I think that we have to experience some of those things to truly embrace God's call for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is Dave Safransky Day.
Hey.
So you got to come back. Dr. Julie will be on and lots more. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Keep writing. We go back and answer you and read your comments. Love, love, love it.
Yeah.
Hi, Shannon. Hi, Shauna, Anita, Rosemary, Angela's here. Vanessa,
Cool.
Amanda,
Yeah, love that.
Trisha. I haven't seen you in a while. Robert. And Lisa laughed at you, but then she removed it and made it love. She meant to laugh.
Somebody gave you an angry face. I guess I'm going to have to eat my donut now.
Bye, guys. Oh, wow.
See you tomorrow.